Hi, Marty.
Hey Zach, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Uh, I'm good. I just been doing minutes all day, and it's just like, oh, I sent October out for everybody, and I forgot to proofread it myself. So
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what you'll find.
Yeah,
And
I'll take a deep look tomorrow. I glanced at it and it looked like everything was good for my case at least.
and then I was working on the ninth, and I wasn't touching anything. I wasn't even touching my desk. And all of a sudden, it started erasing everything.
No.
And it erased almost the whole last case, your continuance one. And I
Hmm.
couldn't stop it. It wouldn't stop. It, I had no control over it.
So is
And
that a
so,
Word document?
yeah,
So
I've
if you
never,
just X out the Word document, it'll ask you if you want to save and you can just say no, probably.
yeah, but it was crazy. I just never
Yeah,
seen
how
that.
bizarre.
And it finally just stopped, and so I was listening to the recording again because it and then they went back and forth so much on the continuant understanding of the continuance. So it's, uh, but,
Yeah, I appreciate you working on those just because I have to get that
yeah,
the one out. And then draft minutes is fine. It's not a big deal.
yeah, they'll be ready for the approval um, on the 30th.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Hi, Zach.
How's it going, Diane?
Good. Hopefully my wife, I've turned off everything else in my house. So hopefully my wife.
There's always
Otherwise,
something wrong with these. I don't know.
otherwise I'll be calling you in, but hopefully I'll stay good. I'm trying to find my package where it is. There it is. Okay. I go between the two screens. So, well, good. Yeah.
How's it been going? It's cooled down a bit since we've last talked.
Yeah, but it's nice in the days. Like it is so cold in the morning here, 15 degrees. But then by 10, it's nice, sunny, beautiful.
Feels good
So
at lunch. Yep.
yeah.
How's everybody?
Hello,
Doing
how
well. How's it going, Chris?
Good, good.
I grab my water real quick.
Zach looks like he's in the forest.
Yeah, I like it.
I know I've got stuff everywhere. I've never figured out a good place to do this.
Yeah, I always go to the same spot, just right here.
Yeah.
Unless I'm in Massachusetts.
And have you been going back there?
Yeah, I've been back 2 weeks. I was over there for about 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my family is. So
And what part of Massachusetts?
it's Centerville. It's on Cape Cod.
Oh, yes, beautiful.
Yeah,
Is it just, what's the weather been like there?
beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah, they've had gorgeous weather. They've had a really nice fall, which I mean, that happens a lot there, but sometimes depending on hurricane season and all that kind of stuff, it can get pretty crazy. But no, they've had some great weather this fall.
Wonderful.
You ever been to Captain Frosty's around there?
Captain Frosty's?
Yeah, they got, fried clams and really good milkshakes and malteds and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
I know my sister has. I don't think I ever have. And my brother has. But there's also a place called Steve and Sue's, and it's a little ice cream place, but they also have the same thing like you're talking about, where they have little. You can get a scallop roll, you can get a
Right.
fish and chips kind of a thing, and
Yeah, maybe a lobster roll, stuff like that.
yeah, that kind of stuff. So
That's the good stuff.
yeah.
Looks like Zach is up on the peak somewhere.
I know. He's
Yeah.
hiking boots on.
Are those leaves, I guess, are on the ground though, really, yeah?
Oh, but they
By
are.
now, probably.
Under snow.
Yeah, I hope.
You could put little earmuffs around your headphones maybe, and you'd look a little bit better.
And a scarf.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you could get a job as a weatherman on your time off from the staff position here.
You could be the one that's on scene, standing in the middle of a giant snowstorm or.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually, if you could tell by my background, this is, I think it's New Hampshire. Visited there a couple years ago and
New
hiked
Hampshire?
and stuff this time of year, is maybe a little earlier, but beautiful.
You said New Hampshire?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's gorgeous up in there.
yeah, great hiking.
Yeah,
But this was, I think, right, pretty close to the presidential range. I forget the town.
so not in the Adirondacks then.
No, are the Adirondacks on the west side? Oh,
Adirondacks are over toward the east more.
yeah, the presidential range. I know it goes, I guess, I don't know. This goes up to like the east side of New Hampshire, I think.
Oh,
The White Mountains.
oh yeah, yeah,
You got White Mountains in a lot of places.
yeah. Yeah,
And
that is
green.
beautiful up in there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the towns that are right in that area. Isn't
They
there?
used to have old what's the old man's face in the cliffs, and a bunch of it fell off a couple
It all
years
fell
ago.
off. Yeah. The old man of the mountain.
I think so.
Yeah.
And my dad lived in Yarmouthport, Cape Cod for a
Oh.
while. Really,
Yeah.
we really like visiting there. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Winter's a little tough sometimes, but
I
still
was-
beautiful.
Yeah,
I was born in Springfield.
Springfield, Mass.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of Springfields around too.
yes, I've been there a few times in the last couple of years, but haven't been out back to the coast, just, but we used to go to, and then we lived in Connecticut. We used to always went to Rhode Island.
Uh-huh.
that's a beautiful area. So
Mhm.
Springfield,
Yeah.
Massachusetts, right?
Yeah, so my mom's Springfield, my dad's Norwich, Connecticut, which is very eastern Connecticut. And then this guy, John, and I, my dad got a job teaching, and we lived in Stratford, Connecticut, where John and I both went to the same elementary school.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes, we found that out sitting in a meeting one day.
How
Yeah.
funny.
Small
Yeah,
world.
we have a secret cabal from Connecticut. We're trying to take over the Board of Adjustment.
It's pretty weird when you're in Flagstaff and you find out somebody went to your same elementary school. So.
Yeah.
mhm.
It's pretty cool. I have a niece that lives in Stratford now.
Yeah.
Well, we were all from around there, but yeah.
Mhm.
I've passed through it, but I haven't spent any time there.
Yes, there used to be a brake plant, asbestos brakes. That's a. I mean, it was
And Sikorsky
in Sikorsky,
helicopters
helicopters were made there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
and Avco. That's where my dad worked. That was actually in Stratford, and also, I guess. And they made the engine for the Abrams with the M1 tank. So
Well,
he
there's
used
a
to
big
travel
naval
all
base
around
there
selling
Connecticut.
engines to the government.
Mhm.
There's a big naval base there in Connecticut also.
Yeah,
In New London.
Yeah.
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 Yes, so we're waiting, we're waiting for one more board member, or, and now I'm sitting here wondering as if, I don't even know if he's attending or not.
No, I'm sorry. I think he's not attending. So I think
Oh,
this is the full, this
okay,
is a
I would-
quorum
yeah.
as well. So
I'm like, well, I think we have everybody then, so we could get to business here instead
We
of.
have a quorum.
Yeah, okay, we have a quorum.
looks like Brian is popping in.
Yeah,
Sorry.
he accepted.
Oh,
he
okay,
did.
good.
Oh, thanks, Marty. Okay, good. Well, we have all four then, which is great. So we'll just wait for him to come in. And I gotta make sure I didn't just lose you guys. Wait, where did? Dang it. Oh, there.
This is Brian Bates. Apologies for being late.
No problem. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Well, we have all our board members here, and we have Zach, our planner, and I have to assume that Bruce, you are our applicant.
I
Yeah.
am. Thank you.
Very good. Great. So we're all here at this time, and we'll get the meeting going. We have the first business of the meeting is that we have the minutes from August 16th. And we would like to see if we have any approval of the minutes or need any modification.
This is Brian. I read them. I don't have any edits.
There were some type errors. I don't know if those should be addressed now or if those should be addressed at another time.
You know, are there, how many are there? A few or just,
Well, probably a half a dozen.
okay,
It, it's either a typo or I just don't understand the wording on a few of them.
okay,
Um,
well, we have to, I feel like, you know, with just one case and that if you'd like, let's if you want to address them, that would be fine.
Okay, just so that, you know, there's not a question. I mean, it left a question in my mind as to what the intent of the statement was. On page 4, about a third of the way down from the top, there's a sentence that says, Mr. McCartney reviewed the conditions that the variance stating that the request was just for the top yellow sign and the 3 below would be subject to the normal requirements of the ordinance. That didn't flow to me. I'm not sure. I thought maybe.
Yeah, and this is John, that I don't think I said that, and if I said it, I didn't do a good job. I have no idea how that's supposed to read, but that was my only comment as well. I was just looking for that now. And so I guess maybe go back to the recording and see if there was something that makes more sense there. Is that possible? Then we could approve it next time or no?
Marty, are you available? Are you listening?
Yeah, could you let me know where that was again?
It's
On
on
page
four.
4.
Go ahead.
Page 4. Is it
And
under
about-
motion, second, modified motion?
Keep going down. It's about a third of the way down.
On my page 4, this is for August. My page 4 is where the motions were made.
Oh, this is page 4 of our
On mine, it's page 4 for both. It's the 4th page in the PDF and it's the 4th page according to the number at the bottom. Oh, but then the typed in page says page 2.
yes. Yeah, it's page 2.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
okay.
it's page 4 in our packet.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So on page 2 and
So you have to leave the camping site to go and do something. And they're walking spaces. And the bed.
Okay, stating that, oh, I see.
I think that where it says it is supposed to maybe be if,
Yeah,
I agree
If-
with that.
and then where it says that maybe is of conditions of the variance.
But I would want it so that if I'm packing my bed down, or noise will be something that I could, you know, if it can't.
yes. Of the variance, stating that if the request was just for the top, yes. And did the rest flow makes
No,
sense.
no, there's something wrong in the second line as well of
Yeah,
that.
I think it needs to be that, the, instead of just the. And that the three below
Three below.
would be subject.
Yeah, I could,
Yeah,
I
that's
can
probably
go
it.
back and listen to the recording to make sure what was captured.
Okay.
And did-
Okay,
And you had a couple other ones too, or no?
The next page, just right up close to the top, it says, Mr. Carpentier asked Mr. Schwartz, is the variance included the illumination? Is it supposed to be included in the illumination, or I'm not sure what that sentence is saying.
well, that editor didn't do a good job. There's an editor on the Word doc and I always use it and and then I try to reread. I'm sorry, if the variance included the illumination. If the
Yeah, it's
variance
probably if
included-
instead of is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay,
and then on the next line down, Mr. Carpentier mentioned the sign has been on the property since 1957 and should not be detrimental, I'm guessing.
should not be detrimental to the public health, safety and welfare.
I don't know why
okay?
he would argue that it would be when he was
Yeah.
asking for it.
Well, that's why the editor didn't catch it because as there, I actually just caught one myself.
And then a few lines down, Ms. Smithson stated the only reason we would need a variance is for the bottom. I'm assuming it should be is if we wanted to keep it yellow.
Wanted to keep it yellow and would prefer to keep. Okay.
I'm not picking on you, Marty.
Oh, I know. I just like, I do so many of these. I kind of just go cross-eyed and think I'm done. I apologize for all the typos here.
And then just a little further down, my last one, I promise. It says, Mr. Schwartz said the way, I'm assuming that should be the staff report was written, is for the top panel. So the word the and the word is
Mhm.
Mhm.
makes it flow.
Okay.
That's it.
Good.
Sorry.
Well,
I
obviously,
move that we
FDR
should approve the meeting minutes incorporating the aforementioned clerical corrections or whatever, or corrections.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Thank you, Marty.
Oh, thank you.
And thank Chris for the eagle eye. I tend to look for more of the, as long that everything's following, and I guess I'm not a good editor either. All right, well,
Teacher in me.
good. I'm glad we have you. Then our next case is going to be, our only case today at this time is case VAR 22013. And Bruce, you are our applicant. And what we're going to do today is Zach is going to present and go through the staff report. At that point, the members of the board potentially will have questions for Zach, and Zach will answer our questions. At that time, we'll ask you as the applicant if you would like to speak and maybe add anything that's not already in the report, or if questions come up that need clarification, we'll have you speak and answer. And the board, so you can give us some more information if you'd like, and then we might have questions of you. We might have questions of Zach again. So we'll just, and then it sounds like there's nobody in the public that's on the Zoom, and so if there's nobody else that wants to comment, then we'll close the meeting portion and we'll the open meeting, and then we'll have discussion among this board members on how to proceed with your application. So just want to make sure we're all on the same page, and we will look to Zach to do his presentation at this time.
Thank you. That sounds great.
Thanks, Chair Patterson. Can you see my screen and can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great,
Yes.
thank you. So Madam Chair, members of the board, this is case VIR 22013. It's the Mortensen Animal Keeping Setback Variance. The applicant and the owner is Bruce Mortensen. The location of the subject property is 950 Old Munns. That's between Forest Highlands and Pinedale. The subject property is 3.28 acres in size, and it's in the AR zone. That's agricultural, residential, a 1 acre minimum, single family residential and agricultural zone. This request is for two different setbacks for a barn. One is for 17 feet from a property line where 55 feet is typically required. And the second is for 90 feet from a water source where 150 feet is typically required from the zoning ordinance. Here's a vicinity map. So this is Highway 17. This is the subject property. It's in the AR zone, the same as Pinedale. We have Forest Highlands to the south, which is in the PRD, Planned Residential Development Zone. And directly adjacent this green here is Coconino National Forest. Here's an aerial photo of the subject property. So you can see up north, there's a stock tank and water does come through the property in a valley here. Again, Coconino National Forest to the east. Here is a site plan that the engineer, I believe the applicant's engineer is on the line too, in case there are any technical questions about the engineering. They created this map and here's the stock tank. North is to the left of your screen. So water coming down this way. This line right here is 10-year floodplain. And what staff is calling the water source is this dotted line here. The site plan also shows so here's Old Munns coming into the highway, it's the access, or to the property is the access. And this is a house that's being constructed on the subject property. This right here is septic facilities for the property. This right here is the proposed barn. And this slide shows on the top an elevation of the barn. And there's a floor plan on the bottom. It has 3 stalls, a storage area, and it has a tack room, and then just some open space. Here's a photo that I took from about maybe the middle of the property, looking south. So you can see the foundation of the home that's being built. Septic facilities would be more in this area. And then these arrows point to corners where the applicant flagged where the nearest wall to the property line adjacent to Forest Service would be. And this is just moving a little bit more easterly, looking south again towards the foundation of the home on the subject property. We're near the property line, I believe is around here. And so this is where that ephemeral stream would come through the property. The 55-foot requirement from an animal keeping structure to the property line is required because of potential odor and fly impacts to neighbors. And in this case, there are no adjacent neighbors or no adjacent home site. It's just national forest. So I wanted to let you know that the impact that the regulation is required for, there's not an impact in this situation. The 150-foot setback from a water source is required because horse manure or livestock manure can get into the water source and of course spread down to the rest of the watershed. And in this case, staff is recommending bioretention, channelization, and or berms that would basically mitigate the pollution aspect. This is a photo here, and this is in your staff report as well. It might be easier to read there. This is sort of a diagram of how bioretention works. So there's native plant filtration and filtration through a number of different strata layers. And then the outflow doesn't have any of the particulate that would pollute the water source within it. So this is one possible option that staff has recommended in a condition that would mitigate the impact of the manure into the watershed. But there are other strategies as well. So those are recommended as a condition in the staff report. As far as citizen participation, staff sent letters to neighbors within 300 feet and no complaints were made. Staff didn't receive any responses. And so for general analysis, if you look back at the site plan, and I can scan back if you'd like, there's so much inundation with floodplain, with the footprints for buildings that are under construction and with wastewater, that it would be difficult to meet the requirements for the barn setbacks. So there's not really a way for the applicant to build on the property without encroaching a bit into these setbacks. And so, as the board is aware, you have to make one of A, B, or C the findings and both of D and E in order to approve. In this case, and it's pretty rare, staff was able to, in our analysis, make all 5. I'm happy to go through the details with that if you'd like. But with that, staff recommends approval of case VAR 22013, subject to the conditions of the staff report. And they're probably a little bit hard to read, but I've put them on the screen for you. And I'm happy to take any questions from the board at this time.
So the detail of the manure handling, filtration and degradation, whatever, I don't know what you call that. You had a diagram of it. That takes that, yes, that thing. So all the water from the meadow, or all the water from the corral area would have to go through this system before it ran off the property.
Mr. McCartney, that's right. But also this technique could be combined with berms and channelization and that sort of thing to, it could be a number of strategies that make that effect. Yes.
Yeah. And it just is really, as it looks like it says, you point to there, they're really worried about the manure and not the urine.
My understanding is that that is primarily manure. And I did have the urban wildlife planner who knows, of course, a lot about ecology, take a look at it. And she was satisfied that these strategies would work.
Thank you.
Zach, I have a question. I couldn't really tell from the drawings or pictures. Where does the water that comes onto this property originate? Does it come off of the national forest, or is it coming off of a highway or a neighborhood, or where does that water come from?
Mr. Wani, that's a good question. So my understanding is that it comes from the east through and down this way.
Okay.
And the applicant's engineer is on with us, and he might have a better understanding of where it's all coming from.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any other questions of Zach at this time?
This is Brian. My question is, if this in any way impinges upon the aquifer, excuse me, the aquifer or potential drinking water.
Mr. Bates, none of those concerns were raised by our engineering division or by the urban wildlife planner, so my assumption is no.
Thank you. And if we could go back to that picture of the depression where the water retention basin would be. Yes, right there. So I'm assuming, it looks to me from this picture that most of the water is going to be coming from on site. And if that's the case, would the bioretention area, would that require the applicant to then come in and be putting in fill that would then help treat any of the manure or urine that's going in there from livestock?
Mr. Bates, my understanding is that of the strategies that could be a part of the mitigating the pollution, that it could include some grading on the property for definitely. But I think the applicant's under engineer who's on the line with us today has a pretty good feel of the land and what they plan to do with it. We have recommended a condition that would effectively create that mitigation, but as far as the exact details of the mitigation, it might be a good time for when it's time for questions of the applicant for him to address that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of Zach at this time?
No,
If- Okay. Mr. Mortensen, is there anything you would like to add to the staff report? You've that you think would be pertinent?
I think Zach has done a great job in outlining the challenges with trying to construct a barn that meets the purposes but doesn't impact the ecology of the situation. And we're fine with those recommendations. And we've worked with Ian Braun at CD&E, and they will be producing the grading plan and channelization, as well as the bioretention plans for us. So I think we're between Zach and CD&E and ourselves, we're in agreement that this is a good way to go to make this the property that we all want it to be.
Okay, and on number 3, it has you, the suggestions on staff is just working to keep that manure collected and out of that stream system. So that will be the burden on you to make sure that that type of is ongoing.
Correct.
Mhm.
If you knew my wife, you'd know that it's going to be done at least daily.
Right. Well, one of the things is that, and we always try to say, is this variance goes with the property.
Correct.
They're not, it's you are the property owner at this time, but it's part of the property, and it would be for the next person that potentially owned it. So, I'm sure your wife is meticulous, but we do have to realize that not all, hopefully most horse people are. They try to keep their area well kept. So
Understood. Thank you.
yes. Well, good. Is there any questions from any of the board members for the applicant?
not me.
Okay,
Brian does not have any questions.
okay.
And Madam Chair, I did want to just let the board know that Ian Braun, who is with CD&E, is on with us, so he could be asked questions as well.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I don't have any questions of the applicant or of the engineer. I think it's very well presented. You did a good job getting the information, Zach, to us. So, all right.
My name's Heidi Mortensen. Do you mind if I speak to this just quickly?
Heidi, if you'd like to speak, what you need to do is you need to give us your full name and your mailing address, and then you can address the meeting.
Oh, okay. Like just right now?
Yes, please. It needs
Okay.
to be on the record. So for our minutes.
got it. Heidi Mortensen.
And your address, please.
Oh shoot. So my current address
Yes,
is 3864 South Big Sky Trail, 86005.
thank you. Excellent.
Yep. So we are going to be, we're Bruce and Janet's, well, it's my husband that's their parents and I'm their daughter-in-law. And we are going to be property owners right next door there to them. And so I just wanted to point out as well, as far as where the barn is going to be located at this point, the way where it's proposed, it actually is less of a nuisance to other properties because it's tucked back off to the side towards the forest rather than more towards the middle of the meadow and the middle of the and closer to our property as well. So, and we're friends with, we've met the neighbors behind us, and I don't think they're on this call right now, but just with talking with them too, they're like, oh, I sure hope they get that variance because, you know, we would hate for the barn to have to be in the middle of the meadow versus tucked off to the side, which it wouldn't impact their smell and stuff like that, but just their view. So just something to consider, that it seems for this lot, it would be a lot more appropriate to have it away. And the location that they've picked seems to be like a really, really the most ideal spot for all the considerations. So.
Thank you.
I have a question
That's all.
for Heidi. This is John.
Yes.
Where do you picture the corral being? Where will the horses be corralled on this on the property?
You know, I don't know for certain, but what we're kind of planning together, we've worked together on this project trying to, you know, make things work the best for everybody. And I don't know exactly what their plans are with that, but I do know that we're working with CD&E right now to create a better channelization of that stream. So it's not going to go so broad and wide out into the meadow like it currently does. The intention and plan is to contain it better and do whatever we need to do, create a berm or, you know, whatever we need to do to create that, the requirements. So the horses will be in an area and the, you know, just the whole, so it can work for them to have horses out there. Really, because I know that that's been a really important part of the project for them. And so I'm really hoping that we can make that work for them.
Thank you.
I have a question for Ian, if I could. And I'm kind of back to that same thing of where the water comes from. I'm curious if it's coming through a neighborhood that already has horses, or if it's coming off of streets, or, I mean, I don't know that area that well. I'm just curious as to where that water comes from and the kind of quantity that would be expected going through there.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so that drainage area is about 1,200 acres. So it drains obviously a big area. It's about 500 cubic feet per second in the 100-year event that's going to be coming through there. And it does drain, you know, other residential areas with streets, a portion of Pulliam Airport. So it's a pretty big area, a portion of Fort Tuthill,
Wow.
you know, portion of the fairgrounds. So it's a pretty big drainage area. So you're going to see, you know, street runoff. You're going to see, you know, probably some livestock runoff, I would imagine. So it enters from the east onto the east property line, and then it exits through the west property line. We can do some form of channelization, some form of berming. We can't do too much because we can't risk affecting upstream or downstream neighbors, even if it's national forest. But as far as the bioretention pond itself, there's going to be no way to handle that kind of, 500 cubic feet per second of runoff. So it's not going to be located where the existing stock tank is. It's going to be up by the barn area. And basically it will be limited to collecting runoff from the barn and corral area. And that's
Okay.
the water that's going to be treated and then discharged into the wash.
Right, and as we know, there's really our sense of, 10 and 100-year floods are kind of not working anymore with the climate change. Rains a lot longer or a lot harder now.
Yeah, and so on this study, we'll use the latest up-to-date NOAA Atlas 14 data. So it should be, that should be taken into account because we'll use the latest rainfall data to come up with the 100-year flow.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was curious as to what kind of a situation we were looking at as far as the regular stream flow versus the flow off of the property around the barn area. And that definitely clarifies that for me as far as that this isn't trying to handle that whole stream. It's just handling the runoff from the pasture and barn.
Correct, yep.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate Bruce, Heidi, and the engineer for all being available. I do have one question I want to go back ask that regarding Heidi's what Heidi brought up, and this is a question to Zach. Is Zach, when I looked at the what we're looking at here, which is the plat, when I saw where the barn was, I thought that the barn had to be there because of the 10-year floodplain and in the front. So is there optional places for the barn to be on the lot? So I thought the presentation was more that this was the only place it had to be, but it sounds like from Heidi is that there are other options.
Madam Chair, I think if you look at all the inundation here, septic facilities here, the house, you could move it a little bit this way or that way, but then you're still needing a variance for reduction of distance from property line and from the water source, what we're calling the ephemeral stream. So any way you kind of slide it around here, you're still needing those things. And this is, in my opinion, where the request is lesser than in other places.
Okay, but if the barn was not as close to the property line, it would be closer to the stream. So they'd need a smaller distance. They'd need a larger variance from the stream if it was not up against that 17 foot. Is that correct?
Exactly. And frankly, in staff's opinion, the issue with downstream pollution is more important than the setback issue from the property line.
Okay, correct. Okay, I just wanted clarification because I was thinking that was the only place it could be, but I understand now it's the information. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions of Zach or the applicant or anybody else in the meeting before I close the meeting?
I don't, Chris.
I'm good to go.
Okay. And Brian, you're good? So
No questions.
great. So at this time, we'll close the public portion of the meeting and we'll look for conversation and discussion about the variance among the 4 board members.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So at this time, we have that Zach gave us that they could make A, B, C, olive, which is always pretty interesting. I think that's a new one almost. And so I want to see how we are feeling about making findings of fact?
I can make the findings A, B, C, D, and E. Chris,
Thank you, Chris.
This is John. I also can make all of them, and I think it's great that they have a professional plan here. The location of everything seems to make a lot of sense. You know, they're gonna take some skill to get a corral in there and kind of squeezed up against that property line near the forest. And they're grading. But yeah, I think it's great that they went to this effort to do a good job. And as I say, I can make all the findings.
Brian? Hello, Brian, do you have any input?
Oops. I had input, but I was speaking when I was muted.
Okay.
First of all, I want to thank the engineer, Ian. Your description makes it much more clear that this is only treating the waste coming from the barn and not from the larger community. That was one of the reasons for my questions of whether or not they had to do infill into the low area. And with that, as well as the comments from Chris and Dugan, I find I can make the findings for A, B, C, D, and E, and I would support approval of this variance.
Okay. So my take on this is I had a little bit different take on the floodplain situation. Where I can make the findings, but I make the finding much more heavily on the fact that the forest, that really completely on the fact that the Forest Service is the neighbor, and not that it's that a barn is a something that I understand in the light agricultural, it's nice to have a barn, but I didn't feel like if we couldn't make findings of fact that it was necessary for the preservation of the substantial property rights. If there had been a private property next door, I would not be able to make I would not be able to make A. So I know so that's my only thing that I wanted to put in here is we have so many properties that are impacted by flood zone in the county, because we don't just have the 100-year flood zone, we have the 10-year flood zone. And so I feel that I don't want to just give this kind of carte blanche as yes, it's a flood zone and you should be able to have a barn. So I just want to go on record for that. But other than that, I can make the findings. I just find them a little bit differently.
Diane, this is John. I agree with you. I wouldn't have been able to make, I couldn't have made the case having the barn so close to the property line, except that it was the national forest. I know we had some of these variance requests before where there was problems with, as was even stated in the report, where there was smell and flies and this and that right up against somebody else's property near their house and stuff, but they don't have that situation here.
Right. And that was my thing, is just in the record, I want to say my findings of facts are based on the Forest Service more than anything else for that setback for the barn. And I think it's amazing that we have engineers that can take property like this and make it more workable, and that they can work with the water and the retention and use some neat tricks to do it. So and I know that we have a great engineering department that will make sure before it gets permitted that it will do what it needs to do. So based on that, I think we are ready for a vote.
Diane, if I may comment, I agree with your statement. I did not say that specifically, but I do agree that it being against National Forest Service was influential in when I read that, I said, yes, there, I don't see a problem with it. So I concur with you.
Thank you. And thank you for adding that. I appreciate that.
Okay, this is John. I would move to approve case VAR 22-0113, including staff's recommendations. Looking for a second.
This is Chris. I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We need one more aye.
Aye, this is John.
John's an aye, Diane is an aye, Chris is an aye.
Brian is an aye. I had to, my
Thank you.
family is talking and so I was muted.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Well, very good. Well, we have a unanimous approval for our case today. And thank you all for your time and participation. And we need a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn and come back next month if needed.
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 John, aye.
Chris, aye.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Diane, if I may, I want to extend my thanks to the county staff for their preparation of the materials. I know it takes a lot of work and just want to recognize them.
Thank
They
you
did
for
an
that.
excellent job as always.
Yeah, Zach, I thought that it was really nice having all this information you provided was great.
Well, thank you.
It helps.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, and and plus, because they're so far into the project, they had great, drawings and renderings, and it really helps when you have, when they come at this point where they put enough thought and time into everything. So
I was going to say it really helps when the applicant gives me something good for me to pass on.
yes,
So there we go.
yeah. So we'll
Yeah.
thank the applicant too. No,
Thank
this is really I've walked this property when it first became available, and so I know it very well, walked through it, and it's really, for me to see this, beautiful piece of land, but, was just, there was a little funky house on it, and it had all these, and to see that it's the use that it's going to come to is interesting.
Well, it's a labor of love, actually. So,
Yeah,
and come walk the property. There's still that 30-foot county easement on the north end of the property for the county trail system.
mhm.
That's all well fenced now, so.
Well, good.
Yeah, so people are walking, riding bikes, the weather's changed that a little bit, but it hikes up on the trail, and it's good to have all the benefits of the property.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, it was kind of a little sleeper and a really interesting property. So it's neat to see what you're doing with it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Well, happy Thanksgiving to all of
Yeah.
you. And if we don't have a case next month, which I don't think we do, then it'll be 2023 before we meet again.
Will be. Thank you all. Have a good
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Take
Good
care.
evening.
care.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.